welcome to PRAJNA SPARKS, a podcast where we listen to a Dharma talk, contemplate with our minds and in our hearts, and engage in guided meditation. In this episode, we premiere a new series, Why Nirvana Matters, where we talk to contemporary Buddhist teachers about nirvana, peace, and its relevance in our lives and practice of Dharma. Today, Lama Zopa speaks to Geshe Sherab, a teacher in the Foundation for the Preservation of Mahayana Tradition, about just this topic. We're grateful to you for sharing and reviewing our podcast as often as you can.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Zopa, and I'm delighted to be here today talking with Geshe Sherab from FPMT, the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition. We're very happy to be doing these PRAJNA SPARKS podcasts now, talking with teachers from different traditions about what is nirvana, particularly this fourth hallmark of the Buddhist teaching, that nirvana is peace. Geshe Sherab is quite an accomplished monk practitioner, so I'm just delighted to be here talking with him today. So welcome, Geshe.
Thank you. And I'm not a great practitioner, neither I'm a great scholar, but I will try to share.
I appreciate so much you've guided Geshe and I so much, and we really are always inspired by you. So I appreciate this opportunity to talk some.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So Geshe and I were just joking that we're here talking about something that we don't know, nirvana.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good place to start, Geshe. How is it helpful to gain an understanding of nirvana when we're just starting on the path?
Well, I think it is helpful if we understand what nirvana is, if nirvana is possible or not. We understand what nirvana is, and if there is a possibility of achieving that, it will inspire us in our practice, because we are not jumping in something that is possible or not possible, but we know that it is possible. So therefore, I think it will give a lot of inspiration, enthusiasm in your practice. So I think that is why it is very important.
And how do you think is a good way to go about getting a correct idea about what nirvana means in the Buddhist path or tradition?
I think mostly, of course, we try to rely on some of the teachings, informations, the wisdom, knowledge shared by those enlightened beings who have achieved nirvana themselves and who have shared their experience and knowledge, not just kind of assuming something, but through their own direct experience. So to study them and to have some understanding of that definitely help. And then I think on our own personal level, if we try to meditate and practice on the emptiness, that is the kind of path to nirvana. Even if we have some understanding through our meditations, then we begin to see, it is possible. That could be possible with your own little experience through that practice and meditations. It's not just kind of philosophy out there, but you started to feel more real, and what has been explained is actually something possible through your own little bit of, you might have little taste of that or little glimpse of that through your own practice and meditations.
Yeah, so it's almost like we start to sense how valuable it is, even if we don't have a full experience of it, obviously, but through the practice.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
In the fourth hallmark of the Buddhist teachings, when it says nirvana is peace, how do we understand? I know it's a huge topic, so.
Yeah, the way I look at that and the way I try to understand of that is nirvana is peace, means nirvana is the permanent and ultimate true peace. In our life, we have peace sometimes, in a moment of peace. But those moments of peace that we find in our life at the moment are not permanent. They are not lasting peace. They are fleeting, it's a fleeting. The peace, we find peace, and then the peace can be go any moment due to the changing conditions, circumstances, external, internal. Whereas once we find that nirvana, that is when our mind is free from all the afflictive emotion and delusions, completely from the very root of that, we find a peace that cannot be disturbed, or that is not fleeting anymore. External, internal changes of circumstance wouldn't affect your peace, because there is no more delusions to disturb your mind. There's no more delusion to disturb your mind or to take away your peace. And so once you find peace in that, then it's always there. Nothing can take away, nothing can change it. So that is why such nirvana is true, lasting peace.
And is it peace only for ourselves, or?
Well, I think it's good that you brought up that questions. When you talk about nirvana, there's two kinds of nirvana: individual liberation or nirvana, and non-abiding nirvana. The Buddha would to say. Once you achieve individual nirvana, it's mostly to your own peace. It's more to do with your own individual liberations, individual peace. But when you talk about non-abiding nirvana, then the peace is not for yourself, but it's for the benefit of all sentient beings. So you want to achieve that peace or that nirvana in order to be greatest help and benefit to each and every sentient beings, to help them to reach and find their own nirvana, And so, so that is that, I think. So we have to understand there are two kinds of nirvana.
Yeah, so the non-abiding or dynamic nirvana of Buddhahood and the individual nirvana of peace. How do you think we can gain confidence? I know you mentioned the examples of enlightened teachers or things like that. Are those only teachers in the past, or do you feel like there's some teachers living today that exemplify?
I do feel that there are many teachers still around in our time who have cultivated all the spiritual realization that is described. And we can feel it, we can see it through their personal practice, their personal actions, behavior. If someone pay enough attention, if we have the fortune to be around them for enough time to observe, and to that, I do feel there are practitioners, teachers who have cultivated all those different spiritual realization that is described in the teachings.
What kind of benefit do you think we get from witnessing that or being around them?
It inspires you, it inspires you. You want to be like them, you want to achieve the realization that they have achieved because of their dedications and help to other sentient beings. Because you see they are not so bothered by the challenges, difficulties. Even in most challenging and difficult situations, they still are always positive, hopeful, always kind, compassion. You hardly see them being frustrated, angry, upset. And everyone wants to be in that state, I would like to be a state where I don't get frustrated and angry regardless what happens. I want to be kind and compassionate all the time, regardless how other people treat me or not treat me. That is something I want to be. And sometimes you wonder whether that is possible, as much as you want to be, but sometimes you wonder whether it's possible because you don't have that experience yourself, But to see someone, a practitioner or teachers, to see them that they are always kind, compassionate, regardless, even when people are not kind to them, even when people criticize them, even when people are not nice to them, still they are able to remain calm, not frustrated, angry, kind, compassionate, still trying to help them. And to see that is very inspiring to see, the teaching is still alive. It's not just in the book.
Yeah.
It is very still alive. And if those practitioner teachers have been able to actualize that, maybe I can do that because we have the same potentials. So that gives you some inspirations and curiosity to put more effort so that you can also be in that state.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's so true. What would you say, because sometimes it can feel discouraging when we think about nirvana, because nirvana, that peace, being able to always be compassionate, kind, not frustrated, not angry, no matter the circumstances. Sometimes that can seem like a very long way away. So nirvana can seem like a very long way off.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for when we encounter that feeling in ourselves? Or
sometimes the way I see is like to have a kind of the nirvana is like the kind of ultimate goal, kind of the master plan. But you don't always think about that. You keep on doing one project at a time to fill the whole master plan. You have to hold that. You have so many projects within the master plan, and you have to start from somewhere. If you keep on thinking all the things you need to do every day, it can be overwhelming, discouraging, because you haven't finished any of those. But instead of that, while you have that in backside, while you have that, this is what I want to achieve ultimately. But at the same time, working with each project, working with a particular practice that we need to develop in order to reach there. And if we work on one particular practice and if we make some progress, if we are able to see some progress and positive changes, it gives you inspirations and hope and courage, because now you are beginning to see small changes, small transformations. And that is the beginning. You begin to see the progress you are making towards that goal and the ultimate goal. So therefore, it's focusing on that instead of focusing on the big, thinking that all the time. It is just in our mind. We try to remind ourselves the ultimate goal is that, have that intention, motivations in all our practice every day. But we don't get too focused and overwhelmed just by thinking of that. But instead we focus on some practice that help us to lead towards that.
Yeah, so piece by piece.
Piece by piece, and instead of
What about, I know you mentioned that part of what's inspiring when we see these great teachers that exemplify this peace, or that are really living with this kindness and compassion all the time, that can be encouraging because we have that same potential. What about if we doubt that we have the same potential? What if we think, I can't do it, or I can't get to nirvana?
Well, first of all, I think I think we have to some degree, we trust on the Buddha's teachings and others' enlightenment teachings, where they have mentioned that we all have Buddha nature and same potentials. I don't see any reason for them to kind of propagate that if it's not true from one point of view. So through that, those teachings by those enlightened beings whom we can trust, they have mentioned that through their experience, through their understandings. There is one part that we can kind of feel that we have the potentials. And secondly, sometimes reading about some of the stories by a certain individual who was horrible in their life before they met the teachings, before they started to practice, and how they changed and transformed from being so evil to such a incredible, kind, compassionate people. there are so many stories about that. During the Buddha's time and later, during the Buddha's time, so many individuals like that where they completely change over the time after they met the Buddha and follow his, someone like Angulimala, and many others individuals like that who completely change. And if they have the potential to change from being so evil to such a patient, loving kindness, compassion, maybe, at least in this life, we are not as evil as them. And so if they have the potential to change, why not? Why don't we have the potential to change? So that kind of can be, it's like something like reading some kind of those stories that happens really, not fictions, but real stories, can be also sometimes helpful, inspiring. And then, meditating on our own nature of the mind, can be helpful to see, even though sometimes because the afflictive emotion is so strong, even though we feel like being angry is our nature, having a strong attachment or desire is our nature, because sometimes we feel like we cannot think of our mind or ourselves without that. Sometimes it feels, the very negative is very nature of our mind. And so therefore we feel there's no hope for me. But if we try to meditate on the nature of our mind, then slowly with the practice, with the meditation, you begin to see, these are just temporary, all these negative emotions, all these destructive emotion, even when we feel very strongly sometimes, they are just temporary. They comes and goes due to certain cause conditions. But our mind is always there. We see, we experience, our mind is always there, even when we don't have any of those moments, when we don't have those affective emotions. And so we begin to understand, the nature of mind is not that, those negative emotions. And so if those negative emotions are not nature of the mind, then that clearly is sign that we can be free of those affective emotions. And then Nirvana is possible.
Yeah, so it's really through, like you were saying before, through our own experience, we start to get a taste of it through the meditation, as well as through the examples of the masters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Geshe. Do you have any other advice or comments on Nirvana?
I don't know. Maybe I need advice, and I need. As you mentioned, sometimes Nirvana seems too far away, and it's not possible, I think. But if we really started to meditate and practice, even a little bit on the nature of the mind and emptiness, the conventional nature of the mind and ultimate nature of the mind, if we try to meditate on that, through the combination of those different meditations, I think with the time, maybe we begin to see little taste of that, see, if I can have that understanding or realization all the time, then it can be possible. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes there are moments when you feel like, it's absolutely possible to overcome those delusions. And Nirvana is possible. And once you have a little bit of taste of that, then you begin to see it is possible. It is possible. And once you see the possibility, it doesn't feel it is too far away, unreachable. Mm. You begin to feel it can be achieved, it can be possible. So I guess that can help us to have inspiration and to give more enthusiasm, I guess, in our practice.
Yeah, how inspiring, how wonderful when we start to get that sense and start to turn towards it. Thank you so much, Geshe.
Thank you for the opportunity to just share some of my thoughts.
Oh, we really appreciate it. You're such a wonderful teacher. Check the notes because we will put in how to access more of Geshe Thupten Sherab's teachings, and as well as his teaching schedule here in Santa Fe. For people that are interested, you can connect more with the wonderful wisdom that he channels from the lineage and everything. Thank you.
I don't have wonderful wisdom, but we all have our own thoughts, and I share my thoughts from whatever I have learned, experienced, and gained from my teachers, friends, Dharma friends, and so forth. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Geshe.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining Geshe and Zopa for Prajna Sparks. Be sure to join us every month on the new and full moons for fresh episodes. We can't thank you enough for taking the time to like, follow, share, and review Prajna Sparks. It means a lot to us. If you have any questions, contact us via email, Instagram, or Facebook. Check the episode notes for those links and for more resources on today's topic. Visit us on the web at prajnafire.com or follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Prajna Sparks. Thank you for listening. May all beings benefit.